organization. They use college students as relationship managers for the poor. They go into the slums, understand the people's issues, and find NGO partners to solve those problems for them. They spent 25 lakhs in the first 3 years of their existence, and the beneficiary benefit was worth more than 3 crores. There are many other models, right? These are all large-scale volunteer-driven models. When I started this organization called Give India, 5 out of our 9 senior-most people were volunteers. Aarti was one of them, and she played a big role in getting many of the others into the organization. And if you look at their profiles, Dhaval, for example, was a consultant in a top-tier consulting firm. Amita Chauhan is here somewhere today. She's now a partner in SVP. There was Aarti, there was Reena from Reediff. They used to lead divisions for us. We paid them 0 rupees, 0 paise, no travel reimbursement, nothing. In today's cost, if we had to hire them for 20 hours a week, we'd spend anywhere between 1.5 to 2 crores a year to hire these kind of people. We paid 0 to get those people. There's an organization called Jai Vakil, for example, in Bombay. 4 out of their 5 top leaders are volunteers again. I think if we are smart about using volunteers, the impact can be huge. So what we're going to try and do in this session here really is to walk you through the why you should do it, how you can do it, what are the challenges you might face, and how can you go about executing, right? Which is why we have this panel here with you. We have Kiran Modi ji from Udayan Care. Round of applause, please. He's one of the most modest people you will come across, but they sent more than 18,000 girls to higher education, resettled them in life, girls coming from extremely underprivileged backgrounds. And they use a network of 3,000 plus mentors to support these girls. Some of these mentors do, and I'll let her tell you more about it, extraordinary stuff for the girls. Aarti is here, again very modest. What she's done is extraordinary in terms of being able to mobilize very senior level corporate people to give non-trivial amounts of time. So most of the people Aarti engages with will end up doing at least 15-20 hours of volunteering in a month, if not more. Anything less than that, she will chew their brains out. Right? And she's done this with more than 500 people. And lastly, we have Padma from the Aditya Birla group here. She works on organization effectiveness in HR. And they've been doing some really interesting pilots. They've done more than 50 projects in the last couple of years where they've sent senior executives to go and execute volunteering projects for non-profits. The feedback from the non-profits is extremely positive, and the feedback from the employees is extremely positive. So it's a group of people who have done it, right? And so what we're going to try and do is walk you through the what, how, why, where, etc. Yeah? So that's the flow. I'll start by just 2 quick questions to each of the panelists. In between that, we'll do some polls. Apparently, technology doesn't work because of lack of internet here. We'll just ask you to raise your hands when we ask you questions. After the session, there's a small Google form link that we'll share. Unfortunately, I don't think it will work here, so we'll figure out how you can access that. But between us, ISDM, I volunteer, a few other organizations, our plan is to actually organize full day long workshops for CEOs of non-profits, where we will actually dive deep into how you can actually do it. So it will be a workshop. Yeah? We'll get started. First one, this is supposed to be a poll, so 3 options. What does volunteering mean to you today? And be honest. Don't give the politically correct answer, right? Do you think volunteering can be a big strength for an organization? Raise your hands. Then we don't need this session. Everybody seems to believe the same. How many of you feel too much effort in volunteering for too little return? You have to put a lot of effort, but you don't get much out of it. 1, 2, 3, 4 people. I think the rest of you should go and attend the pilot session, in all honesty. How many of you don't have a clue? Don't really know, not really work much with volunteers. Okay. Okay, this is going to be preaching to the converted. We'll see how it goes. Okay. We get started now and move there and get started. Thanks.
So we have been consciously working. In fact, one of our volunteers, Deeksha is here. She, did the entire designing of the program for us completely pro bono. Again, in the way you were talking about, lakhs and lakhs of rupees are needed for all these kind of things. So I was in all our programs, we have tried to bring in a huge element of volunteering. In fact, in our organization, we have all these finance committee and risk management committee. Each committee has at least three outsiders who are corporate, highly placed in corporate jobs, and they are part of those committees. So you can imagine, I was just trying to calculate before I came here, because I know, you also like to talk about numbers. So if you look at it, collectively 4,143 volunteers last year worked, including me. And if you calculate at the rate of 122 hours annually, so some people like me, we are giving 10 to 12 hours a day. There are people who are giving a few hours a day. There are people who are giving only a few hours a month. It comes to almost 507,195. 507 million hours for the organization. And imagine if we had to pay, what would it be? Where would we raise that kind of money? So it's not only they are huge cost savers. More than that, the kind of diversity they bring in, the kind of experiences they are bringing, that is priceless. Because within our organization or within any organization, especially in the NGO sector, you don't get people of that kind of experiences. So this has been a very, very good experience to bringing in those kind of people. Each volunteer does not come only alone. They bring in their families, they bring in their linkages, they bring in their resources. So it's a huge, huge, benefit. The number you have dialed is currently busy. And we've been having, all kinds of volunteers, long-term, short-term, lifetime commitment. So there are many, many types of volunteers. So I could keep on and on about it. So whenever you want me to stop, I can stop. I think now it's just.
No, that's very impressive. By the way, 500,000 hours of volunteering is the equivalent of 250 full-time employees for a year, right? And these are, I know some of the people who volunteered. Pooja is here today.
Pooja's just gone to that.
Oh, she's just left. Deepak Sharma ji is there. I know him extremely well. If you had to hire these people, you're paying like 25, 30, 40 lakhs a year. Now just do the math. 250 people who you're paying 25 lakhs a year. It's like 65 crores. And Udayan Care's budget is how much now? So it's like literally half, right? I didn't know this math before this session. They're getting 62 crores worth of volunteering on a budget of 50 crores as an organization. That's the power of what you can do if you really have it. Padma ji, quick one on, you are not the traditional CSR person, right? And yet you're deeply invested in volunteering. Why and what have you been trying to do at Aditya in this work?
Thank you. So if you look at the purpose of Aditya Birla Group, it is about enriching lives and inspiring trust and also building initiatives institutions, right? And you would have seen it in a lot of, including in Kaun Banega Crorepati, is where Aditya Birla Group is sponsoring this time, and our code and philosophy is being the force for good. So if you really look at it, it's not about one individual or one leader. It is more about the entire organization really doing it, right? So that's where we picked up a couple of years back, and we have been doing volunteering where people will go for a day, do beach cleaning, do wall art in a school, go and spend a day in an orphanage or old age home. Yes, I think it worked very well for the people who were doing it, because a lot of them across different businesses, they said that we bonded very well. We could have never bonded so well even in a company offsite. But I think the NGOs were not very happy, honestly. I think वो आके in that typical Hindi तमाशा करके चले गए, right? उसके बाद क्या हुआ? And there were also certain very deep thinking employees. They said that we really want to do it, right? And when we did a survey and checked with the employees, would you like to go for a deep volunteering? In ABG, we call it deep volunteering, wherein people will go for 2 to 3 weeks, and based on their skills and expertise, they would go and volunteer for a particular cause. So we did it for the first time last year. Earlier we used to do that for our graduate engineer trainees, but for them they didn't have a choice. You know, it's a part of your program. You have to go and deliver for a week. Some of them would fall in sick, saying मैं बीमार हो गया, वहाँ पे पानी पिया, लूजिस हो गए, डायरिया हो गया. You're literally forcing people, right? And we would put a black mark on it. And personally, I think we believe this is not the way to do. Whereas volunteering is a wonderful opportunity to get people to learn empathy, right? It's impossible to teach anybody empathy in any leadership program. So empathy was one, adaptability was another. These were the two, and gratitude, right? Deep gratitude, because you know, in corporate world, you get increment X, my colleague gets increment X plus 2%, and I'm upset. I'm not happy with that, right? So it's a different world altogether. So we piloted last year, and the biggest thing that we did was, we said you will have to self-nominate. And not just self-nominate, because people raise their hand, and once the time comes, they won't go and volunteer. So just like in international universities, you have to write a good scope of purpose, statement of purpose, why you want to do, which project Aarti helped us, you know, curate the projects, which project do you want to apply, and why you want to apply. How do you believe you can contribute to that? And then we shortlisted people, and we said that we are not going to interview you. We will have an external person. So Aarti did the interviews last year also. And surprisingly, we had 16 people. And I'm saying this honestly, because I didn't believe that managers would allow their people to go out completely for 2 weeks and not be associated with work at all, right? It was quite, because I have heard managers say, "Acha, cross-functional project करना है, काम कम है क्या? मैं थोड़ा दे देता हूँ," right? No, seriously, you know, these are the conversations which happen. So that is where we had 16 people going, 8 projects, and it was absolutely brilliant. We had coming straight from very top leadership level to, we set a certain level below which we are not taking, because for us it is about, you know, leveraging your expertise, right? And if you're fresh in a job, what is it that you will? Of course, you know, your volunteering spirit is there, but we have those specific projects that people will have to do. And of course, buying from the management is very important. Mrs. Rajeswari Birla came for the celebration on the last day when they completed. So that is important, but having said that, leadership can do only so much. We went ahead this year, you know, we did, and we were very pleasantly surprised that we had about 450 applications, and all new. Okay, we told the people who did it last year, they wanted to do it again. We said that no, you know, you spread the word, but you apply. Again, we had very strict, you know, selection. We had some 40 plus people doing projects, and the NGO feedback is very good. And I think the proof of the pudding is a lot of them are actually associated with the NGOs. So I keep it at that. It's a win-win. It really re-emphasizes the force for good that ABG is all about, and it is helping us develop empathy, adaptability in our leadership, and deep gratitude. And one behavioral shift, there is a lady who said that she now doesn't stand under the shower. She makes sure she always bathes with a bucket of water. Right? She says that when you stand under the shower, I realize that these people don't have 1 liter of clean water to drink. And how can I waste it? Really a win-win.
That's a beautiful example of how volunteering transforms the volunteer as much as it brings benefit to the organization. So Aarti, you've been this general global champion. I've known her for now, what, 25 years?
I'm not that old, but.
She's 18 years old, but I know her for 25. Uh, but you've been this general champion at large for volunteering, and there are 2 or 3 of these initiatives like whiteboards, women on boards now, the Levers program, etc. In addition to what you do through iVolunteer, can you walk us through some of these initiatives? What exactly do you do with those volunteers? What do they do?
Yeah, you'll have to interrupt me if I go on for too long.
I'll just snatch the
Snatch them. So the Women on Board program is something that ISDM and I run together. It's a 2-year program. It came from a survey that we had done to understand from non-profits as to what the gaps at the board level were. And to our surprise, we found that for the hard skills that are needed at the board level, which is finance, marketing, HR, those kinds of things, those places were still dominated by men. So we studied like 120-25 organizations, and literally over chai with Ravi somewhere in the hills of various, Assam, the Women on Board program was conceptualized, and we said, let's offer this as an initiative for mid to senior career women across corporates as an opportunity to do a program which will enable them to get onto advisory boards. And in the application form itself, Diksha's also here, she's an alumni of the program. In the application form itself, there were 2 things that we sort of made mandatory. One is the person should give 8 to 10 hours a month in that role, and 2, that they should be willing to open up their networks to others. So if anybody did not fill in those parts, and they would not even get to the next stage. We've done 150 women so far. The next cohort is, the 8th one is happening next week. More than 75% of them are either connected to or on boards, on advisory boards of non-profit organizations. So that's the briefly the Women on Board program. Whiteboard is an iVolunteer initiative that we started more than 10 years ago. We used to run it in Bombay, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai and Pune. And there the intent was again to get a group of people to come together and be involved with 5 to 6 NGOs in their cities over an 18 to 20 month period. Each of these people would work one-on-one with those organizations, but they would then come together once in 6 weeks to just share. It's a peer learning opportunity, and also lean towards each other. If some organization needed say marketing, but the account holder, so to speak, was not a marketing person, would then get somebody from the group to step in there. And there the goal was very simple. The goal was that we need these, 20-30 people to stick in the sector forever. And we've had 100% sort of conversion there, I'm very pleased to say. So the whiteboard is sort of shut after that. Gopi is also not here, but he's also whiteboard member in Mumbai. Levers is a more recent initiative, and that really stemmed from a few of us volunteering in the Northeast. And we sort of felt that our understanding of grassroots organization is pathetic, generally. Right? And so we wanted to create an opportunity for people who would understand what is this reality of grassroots organizations, what are their challenges, etc., before jumping into solution and say, okay, now do theory of change, or those kinds of, I'm sorry, I have a huge allergy to those kinds of terms. No disrespect to others that don't, but and so we now have about 14 people who are part of the Northeast group. The design is very simple. You have to commit a week to pay for yourself, no costs, nothing is met by anybody. You spend 3 days engaging with the organizations there. You come back and you spend 3 days just roaming the hills and having fun with a group of people. So we have a group now for the Northeast, we have a group for MP Chhattisgarh, we have a group for Tamil Nadu. We are on the the brink of creating a group for Karnataka, and the idea is that every state will have its own group, and it's state-led because language becomes very important. So you have to know the local language and commit to then being involved for the long haul.
Not bad. Okay, so that gives you context, right, about the kind of work that they're doing. We are not talking of a bunch of people going and cleaning a street or painting a wall. We're talking of serious, committed volunteering that can have huge transformation. So let's dive a little into the how of it. Kiranji, back to you. So You know, a lot of organizations, when we speak to them, they say, firstly, it's difficult to find volunteers. But even if you do find them, who's going to engage them? It takes a lot of time. बहुत मेहनत लगता है. We don't have the processes in place, etc. to do it. So, can you walk us through what are the processes you built over the years to source, retain, engage, and leverage the power of volunteers?
The best way the volunteers come to you is by word of mouth. You have done something nice, obviously you will be going out and talking to others. And that brings in a whole lot of volunteers. As I said earlier, each of our 38 locations, we have got 4 committee members and conveners who are manning that particular center. They are all highly placed people. To the extent, some of them are working as HR leaders in, international, multinational companies, and they are giving this kind of a time. So one person does something, it brings in others. We also have, relatively short-term volunteering, where it requires just about 70-80 hours in a year. So for that, we also do, social media posts. So, you're laughing at 70-80 hours.
I mean, most organizations will think that getting people for more than 12 hours is difficult.
Oh God.
So you're saying 70 hours is
Ask
short
them
term,
to send
right?
them to me.
I just want you to keep paying attention. I think organizations that do it well know how to get the most. Some of the best volunteers I work with have spent like thousands of hours volunteering, right? And that's where you get the maximum value.
So social media has been a very potent way to encourage people. Then we go to corporates, we go to schools, colleges, and we make presentations. So that also excites people. And when we are talking about real story, we tell them that it's not just skill, it's not just the desire that you have to give something, but in the organization also, we must have the capability to use your skills and your time availability. So I would just like to share, one day, one person just walked into my office. He was a foreign national, and he said in the night at 12 o'clock, it's my flight. And I saw your board, so I just walked up. I wanted to understand what do NGOs do here, and can you use my services? I said, how much time can you give me? He said 4 hours. I said, okay, 4 hours, very good. Just sit down. 4 hours is also very good. I can curate, a program for you, a project for you. Then I started asking him about his credentials and what could he. He said he was a doctor, pediatrician. I said, at that time we had just started, so I didn't have a proper health care form for our children. So I asked him, and he designed it so beautifully well that the present form is actually, emanated from there. And he felt so happy that he has been able to do something, for the children of this country. So I think, it depends on your own interest in the volunteer and your respect for his time. And if you are able to respect the person's time, more often than not, they will be successful. Also, sometimes, you haven't asked me for challenges, but I don't know whether if I can mention some challenges. You see, sometimes the challenge is how you don't think that they are a problem for you. But does your staff also think that way? So you have to continually keep people motivated, whether they are working for you or they are, after all, when you are managing your staff, then also you have to manage them, right? Similarly for volunteers, then why is the problem when they are bringing in such resources? All you need to do is to be open to them. And we've been able to manage. Recently, one of our conveners, who was such a well-meaning person, wanted to give more and more, but he was feeling kind of unappreciated. So he was wanting to leave, but I wouldn't let him go. And we brought him to office, we all sat down with him and, understood the problem. The staff was explaining, he was explaining, there was beautiful marriage again, So he's still working and he's doing so much for the children, it's amazing. Because, when you come at a certain stage in life, when you really want to give back, then you will leave no stone unturned and you will go that extra mile.
No, but from a process point of view, do you have like a structure? Do you have a team who only looks at volunteers?
So we have a volunteer manual. This volunteer manual has different sections for each program. Because in the Udayan program, which is for the orphan kids, we have these lifelong committed volunteers. and we are 35 of them, 35 of us. The eldest is Dolly Anand, who is now 85. She's still going as strong as she was when she joined me at the age of 60. So there is a complete manual, complete training program, and where we take them through. Similarly, for the Shalini program, there is a manual, there are processes in place, there are forms, they have to fill out volunteer hours, and we corroborate it with the children. The girls who are being mentored by them, they also have a format in which they have to write how many hours they met, what was the discussion like, were they happy. If they were not happy, they can always come back to us, this volunteer is not working out for me. So then, we try to replace the volunteer. So it is completely a process-driven field, and we have an ERP where each and every volunteer is uploaded. But now, I'm sorry to say, but with the new data policy which is coming in, most of the corporates are not willing to share that. Then, that is going to become a little bit of a problem. Otherwise, everything is very, very controlled and properly done. And we have a volunteer department, actually, which looks after volunteers as well as interns. Again, for interns, we keep on going to different universities all over the world.
How many people in that volunteering department?
So we have two.
Two.
And they are under
So
the
two people
HR.
are managing 3,500 people.
No, actually no. Each chapter manages its own volunteers.
Right.
So we have a mentor to mentors and a volunteer to volunteers, those kind of senior positions, like in a
And
chapter.
they are also volunteers, right?
They are all volunteers.
So it's a multi-level volunteering
Absolutely.
model.
So
But
they manage
the larger point I'm making is you have two people to manage 3,500, which, if you remember earlier, is the equivalent of 250 full-time staff. Show me an organization where you can manage 250 full-time staff with 2 employees. Well, interesting. Padma, have you started, for example, measuring in any way what is the value of this volunteering to your employees? Meaning, does it result in improvements in some skill or something else? And like translating that into a business benefit, either in terms of improved empathy or whatever. And do you see potential in that direction?
So, as of now, no. It has been more of a self-reflection by the people who have participated, and their managers saying that, we see a shift in this person, we see a change in this person. So things like that we haven't measured. So it's more of a feedback from the individual and also a feedback from the NGO. But I guess the measure for us, really, if you look at it, being the philosophy of being the force for good, it's about how much these people are continuing to volunteer after those 2 weeks. That's a very, very important measure. Had the NGO not received any benefit from those 2 weeks, right, they wouldn't have invited them, right? Now there are more and more who come and say that, can we please have them on board? And we told them that continue to do it, it's on your own time. These 15 days work from the organization, but otherwise you're free to do. The other thing is the word of mouth, what you were talking about, right? So we have got some 450 people self-nominating for this time, right? And that self-nomination happened because there was a huge amount of word of mouth from the people who really, participated last time, and they said that if there is anything that you wish to do in terms of your development, but in terms of hard measures, is there a better customer service because the person has become empathetic? No. I'm not even sure if it is possible. This is a very personal view because it's about giving back to the society. It's about enriching lives of the community. It's about being a force for good. It will come back. It will come back to the individual, come back to the organization, but maybe in a completely unknown, different, unexpected way.
Okay. So continuing this thing about challenges, because I think that's still there in most people's minds, this is all the rosy side of things. You work with both NGOs as well as corporates, right? And with individual volunteers. What are some of the biggest challenges that you see why are more organizations not able to engage hundreds and thousands of volunteers, and why are more hundreds and thousands of people not actually volunteering? Don't get offended.
Of course, I'm offended. So, I hesitate to generalize, but I will anyway do that. I'm going to start with on the NGO side, right? I think that there aren't enough good stories of organizations that have used volunteers amplified enough, right? And I think maybe that's somewhat cultural to us also. So there were lots of people who raised their hands when they spoke about their experience with volunteers, but I don't know how many of you actually celebrate this publicly in your social media or annual reports and so on, right? So I think that is one. I think that if more of us who had good experiences with volunteers celebrate volunteering, it's very encouraging to other people who want to then, raise their hand and volunteer. So that is one. Two, I think there is also, so volunteering is not the main role or job or task of a non-profit, right? It is to work with children or health or education or whatever it is, right? So to think through what can an activity be that will enable me as an organization or my team to be more successful, I think that needs a little bit of sitting down and reflecting. So not using volunteers as just task doers, right? But as people who sort of co-own the mission and the problem and the challenge with you, and investing a little bit of time in enabling them to see the possibility of their engagement itself. So that doesn't happen enough on the non-profit side. In the beginning, I think it is very important to invest a little bit of faith, time, money, if need be, in building out what opportunities can be created, and two, how can we try and get the right kind of people. And there are many. That's a separate conversation altogether. On the individual side, I think again, I don't think they are thinking about why they want to volunteer. And that's a very, very important, very, very important thing to think about, right? The conversation is always about, okay, will you volunteer to move this bottle from here to there? I may or may not be interested, right? But if we as individuals sit down to think about what is it that really plagues me, what is it that keeps me awake at night? Something is bothering all of us, right? None of us is in this utopian space anyway. So that is one, and then you sort of say that, okay, life happens. Life happens to everybody. Everybody has 24 hours. This whole thing of I don't have time is not true, right? It's about just not prioritizing. And if you're not prioritizing, then it's important to ask yourself the question, why am I not prioritizing something that I think I'm bothered by? Whether it's corruption or potholes or, girl child education or whatever it is, right? And then to make the match on the basis of the motivations, the constraints, and I think what I'm finding is cost alignment, right? Some of us care more about some costs, we make the time for it, right? If it's a transactional activity of, doing something, we might do it but I won't stick with it. But if it's a cause I care about, even if I don't have that particular skill, I will make it my business to find that skill from somebody else. So I think it's just pausing, reflecting, and not jumping into action, but also jumping into action really quickly. And one last point I want to make, is that I think our tolerance for non-performance and mediocrity is very high, and that needs to go. So as NGOs, I remember, and I won't mention the organization, that when somebody did not volunteer, to actually say to that person that you suck at what you did and please do it, right? It's important to give that message. Two things will happen, because the person then who is volunteering intentionally, mindfully and well feels more respected and valued. And you're not giving them the same treatment as somebody who's not showing up.
Yeah, I think a lot of that mediocrity related points apply to employees as well. Far too often we just, dance around the problem. I just wanted to come back to you guys and check, does anybody have like a 1 minute story, and really keep it to 1 minute, of a great experience with a volunteer that you had? Okay, and does somebody have a really bad, terrible experience you had with a volunteer? No? बहुत अच्छे लोग हैं यार इस कमरे में. Sir, go ahead. Can we get you a mic? Can one of you take this? Yeah.
I'm responsible for leading people, a group of more than 5,000 people for volunteering in my organization as a CSR head. And since last couple of years, because of all the volunteering initiatives that we have taken, we have seen multifold growth in number of volunteering hours, because now we are giving all the volunteers $15 per hour for volunteering, up to 16 hours in a year. So in last year we were able to manage more than 5,000 hours with more than 500 volunteers, and there are a lot of success stories around that. So I think if we help them with some kind of motivation and success stories, it gives us also some confidence that people are aligned with our thought and they are helping us.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi. So I think this happened when I was almost 10 years back, when I was working with this organization called Blind Leaf Association, Delhi Rosie Road. So what used to happen that there's a lot of dropouts. There are a lot of dropout students who used to come to the vocational training center over there, right? And one of the key challenge was to, can we, if they want to get into a job, they need to complete at least basic class 10th or class 12th. And we were struggling to get that done, right? Because if you look at it, person with visual impairment, they need to have a scribe. Before that, they need to all the notes to get translated in Hindi or English or in the language, right? And to somebody to help them to memorize all this, right? So we, when you're working with a corporate partner, we happen to mobilize, almost 50 volunteers to do that. And as a result, what happened that we could manage those 50 individuals clearing class 10th and 12th exam now. So what happened that by default they become eligible for different government jobs or other private sector jobs, right? So that has been one of the key powerful message, because no money invested, nothing else, and they was able to do it. And every Saturday they used to come there and amazing. We were doing it out of our profession, but they were doing it out of passion. So that was like really motivating. Also, I thought of just sharing here for the larger audience since you asked.
Thanks. Yeah, I just give me a second. I want to just kind of do a quick wrap up and open up, because we're going to have about 15-17 minutes left now to end this session. If you had one thing that you would recommend to the organizations here that they should try this and see whether it will work or not, what would you say to them?
So working with children, one thing that I've learned is everything is relational. If you don't develop relationships with children, you will never be able to make any impact in their lives. Similarly, employees, and more so with the volunteers. You need to have a relationship which will take you to the next level with them. So we always work with short-term volunteers in the hope that they will become long-term donors, long-term volunteers, and then long-term donors, more often than not, they become your donors actually. And that's why I think relationship making is very, very important, to give them time to understand where they are coming from and how you can support them in the work that they want to do. So Udayan has been able to set up chapters in Germany, in America, in Canada, in Australia, all because of our volunteers. These are volunteers who came and worked with us, and they took the message just because of this relationship. And I keep on telling my staff also, when you are working with children, you are thinking of psychology all the time. When you are working with the volunteers, please think how, which aspect of that person you can kind of, work upon and make that person useful for the organization and for the children. Everything is for children. So you have to think of the children ultimately as the end result.
Okay. Padma, same question to you. If there's one thing you want to encourage people to experiment with, small pilots that people can try. Because I think it's going to be difficult for people to suddenly invest very heavily in volunteering. But what is the one thing you might suggest to people to try this and see?
I will actually suggest two things, right? But I'll keep it brief. One is go to organizations, corporates which really mean to, work on this. It's not another tick mark that needs to be done, and hence they are doing it, right? Purpose-driven organizations is what you should reach out to, right? And always pilot small, right? We also piloted small last year. Our idea is to scale up much bigger from next year onwards, so it will happen. The second is gauge whether the person who is holding it from the corporate side, how passionate he or she is. Okay, if that person is taking it as a just a KPI, another job to be done because it's on my goal sheet, even if the leadership believes in it, it will not work. You know, my colleague is not here, Krupa Shah is her name, and I think the commitment and the passion with which she drove, I think without her it won't have happened. It would have died a natural death, and that too because it's in a pilot stage. Once it becomes a part of the process, then that passion is not required. But these are the two things you must check, otherwise, you know, the pilots may not be that.
Aarti, same question to you also. If some of these people had to go back and do a chota experiment, what would you recommend they try?
I think two things, right? One is before you leave the hall today, pick up your phone and say that you want volunteers. Send that WhatsApp message to how many other people. So I don't think we ask enough. So please ask. You can figure out what that will be later on because it's only a pilot experiment. And second, pick up the phone and call. I mean, these are, I'm sorry, very simple things, right? And I spend hours on the phone just calling. Not texting, not emailing, not sending pigeons, nothing. I'm just saying just pick up the phone and call potential volunteers. And this is the point that Kiranji was making, right? It's also about building a relationship. And we are South Asian, we thrive on that. So two things, ask and call.
Good. So, I was hoping to do a before-after show of hands, but if everybody is already convinced about volunteering right at the beginning, we might actually have fewer hands going up now. So we'll pause here. I think we have 10 minutes left. We want to quickly get a few questions and answers from you all. So anybody, any questions, please go ahead. Yeah, anybody? Yeah. Request just keep your questions short. We have only 10 minutes, so I want to be able to take at least 5 questions.
Thank
so
you.
your question should not be a huge description of what you do and all. Thank you.
My name is Kiran. I've been doing voluntary, non-profit, for-profit in parallel for 13 years. And I started right outside my law school. It really helped me because to do good work, I needed to have done work. So volunteering gave me that window, but I was very unorthodox in this. I showed up in
Do you have a question?
My question was internships, then senior professionals, and then NGO leaders themselves. Each one has the potential to volunteer. When you bring finance or incentive-based remuneration or a reward, does it affect the productivity? And at which stage do you consider that, okay, we can reward them, or do you not? Because if this is done wrong, I have seen it dip the productivity. Someone was doing great, they got some money, then their productivity dipped.
Got it. I think I've understood your question. Does any one of you want to respond to that? Go ahead, Kiran.
Actually, I always say that volunteering is the biggest reward in itself. You know, and I've heard so many of my mentors and volunteers say, what can we do for them? The way they give back to us. So all of them feel they are at the receiving end and not the child. So you don't have to bring in money. And something which is started on an altruistic mode, I personally think there is no need to bring in finances. So
Yeah.
maybe,
But-
I've not experienced, maybe it would be.
Just one sentence, and I corroborate that. All the volunteers that we have, I have spoken to each one of them who have gone through these. They said that we thought that when we are going to the NGO, we are going to give them. We actually came back much more enriched. We got more than what we gave. So I don't think volunteering is about money.
Just one other thing which is not directly related, but if you read the book called Freakonomics, there's a lot of interesting examples like this. One of which was a daycare center where people, if they came and picked up their children late, they decided to impose a $5 penalty per hour for coming late. And after they did that, the number of people coming late increased dramatically. Because what they lost was the guilt that the people had when they came and late. People now are paying $5 and the guilt was worth it. When you convert a relationship into a transaction, often you actually destroy value rather than create value. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to discuss one of the issues with
Go ahead.
volunteering. Especially,
Your mic may be off. Yeah.
I think you can hear my voice.
Yeah,
but it is fine.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, when we're dealing with highly skilled volunteers who might be of older age, right? I've experienced where they kind of spend time understanding the problem, but they come to a phase of inaction, where they're not able to kind of contribute and say how to solve the problem, right? So I want to just get ideas from the panel when we're dealing with middle-aged volunteers or what we call highly skilled professionals from their space. But when they are not moved to those space of action, right, in terms of, because I feel when we're working with younger people, they're more prone to action and immediate action, right? So just wanted to understand your thoughts.
So I think there are two things, right? One is I think in the design of the volunteering activity or the volunteering project itself, this has to be thought through, right? Is the person, does the person have the competency to solve, and not based on what Shio is saying, but actually looking at what they've been able to do in other aspects of their life. And two, checking back right through the journey of engagement to say, are you understanding what the situation is all about? Do you understand what intersectionality is, right? I don't mean to use a jargon, but I'm saying that checking back every step of the way, rather than getting them started and then, waiting it out, right? I think a lot of inaction also happens because there is embarrassment, right? So I'm the marketing head or VP or something of a company, but I'm not able to figure out how to solve. Then I will just stop, right? But it will go back to how you designed and conceived of the project itself.
There's a mic right there in front.
So actually, like we have a project curation form, so on which the project step by step we write it out that this is what we expect, and then they commit to it and they have to give a report. And if they are not writing the report, there is every opportunity to sit with them and discuss that why is it not happening, can we support it, rather than being critical, because that they won't like, and especially the coordinator is a young person and they are coming from that kind of background. So one of the Tata company CEOs, he had volunteered with us, and he was developing a volunteer assessment, per hour, how much can be translated into terms of money. So he was not able to give time. So one day I sat with him, I said, you have only now 2 weeks left and there is still so much work. I'm sure you would not like any of your employees to know that you could not finish your work. I said it very jokingly. I said, why don't you bring some young people from your organization who could assist us? And it brought, and such a beautiful format he was able to create for us. So, you have to take help of your seniors, you have to take help of others, and be very gentle, be very patient. You reach out to the person.
Okay, hi.
No, 1 second.
Just 1 second. I think the NGO should also understand that it's a completely new environment for them. Let's say in our case, usually the senior leader will stay in a Taj or a overall. We ensure that he stays in a 2,000 rupees hotel, right? It's a huge adaptability for them. So that empathy from the NGO is also important. Both of them said, sit with them, try to understand. They have come here just to.
Specifically, I'm talking to Parul right now in Pune, and I'm happy to talk to you also. I think specifically for SVP, if you can get partners to bring along one level below executives as a project team with them. So I think once people reach the VP above level, they don't do any work anymore. They become managers. They lose their ability to do work on their own. But they can bring youngsters from their team to help with the execution. Yeah, there was one last question that we'll take, sorry.
So I should hardly
just 1 second. After the session is over, some of us will be hanging around for 10-15 minutes, so we'll make sure you get your answers. Go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Roshan. I'm from Free Pathshala, Gurgaon. My question is for Udayan Charlie as well as Aarti for you. do you have a playbook for NGOs which can be followed? That's for Jen Charlie. And Aarti, do you do something for NGOs wherein they can learn how they can speak to volunteers?
So actually, no, we don't have any playbook which we can share with others, because I think every organization has a different need for a volunteer. And in my organization, there are at least 7 to 8 different types of volunteers that we need. So for our needs, we have created manuals and formats for each. So I think it will be very difficult, but something is available and one can always work upon it. If any organization is interested, we could always share and we could build upon it. In fact, I must say, one of my first manuals on volunteering, it was called Big Friend, Little Friend, where our children were going to corporates. It was done by I Volunteer.
I will reach you. My name is Roshan from Free Pathshala.
Yeah, so I work with I Volunteer on volunteering, and we just rethought about how to engage with NGOs on helping them think about volunteering. So the short answer is yes. If you reach out to me, I'll connect you to a person in whichever city you are, and we can talk a little bit more.
By the way, let's go to the last slide. Next one. So this is the URL. Unfortunately, internet will not work right now, but it's very easy to copy, right? tinyurl.com, DODM, VOL. DODM is this conference, VOL for volunteer. It's a Google form. A bunch of us are going to get together and do a series of 2-day workshops in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Pune, major cities for CEOs of non-profit organizations, right? Your time is important. The workshop will be free, but you as a CEO will have to commit to 2 days of your time. And we will put you through the whole process of how you can build a serious, high quality, scalable volunteering program for your organization. So I Volunteer hopefully will be part of it. ISDM will hopefully be part of it. My trust will put in the resources required to make sure that we bring in the right experts to do these workshops across different cities. So on that note, I want to thank my panelists. I know you might have a few more questions. Officially, we are out of time, so we can catch up in the lobby. Thanks to each of you, really wonderful. I just end with that I think I keep getting impressed with what the power of volunteering is. When I started Give India 20 years ago, I used to tell people it should be possible to raise retail money in single-digit percentages. We raised more than 400 crores at an average cost of 6.5%, when everybody was raising money at 35-40% retail cost. With volunteering, I see the same potential. Kiran is a great example. 50 crores, 60 crores worth of volunteering free every year. Educate Girls is 120 crores worth of volunteering free every year. There are at least 20 other such organizations that are saving between themselves more than 1,000 crore a year in staff costs because they're able to use volunteering. If I ask anybody, what will you do with unrestricted funding, right? Everybody loves unrestricted funding. 90% of the use of unrestricted funding is to do either experiments and pilots or to hire people. Tell me who can hire a CFO of the quality of, say, a CFO of one of the Birla Group companies. You can't afford that person. A person going to cost you 2.5 crores. But if you can get that person to spend 12 hours a month with you, and people will find the time. Everybody has time, like Aarti said. They can stop watching Netflix, they'll have 12 hours a month. Easily, right? But just imagine what that will do for your organization if you get a person of that caliber. Just imagine if instead of going somewhere to do a strategy workshop or a theory of change session, you could get partners from 3 of the top consulting firms to be on your advisory board or mentors. After spending enough time in the field to learn how the grassroots works, not just coming top down at you. I think if each of you can just reflect on this and do small pilots, try out with 1 or 2, don't get volunteers to come and paint walls. We know it is of no use to you, but think of what really matters. Every survey we have done, we've done 4 surveys with people who volunteer so far. Volunteers' biggest motivation to volunteer, not certificates, not appreciation, not networking. It is the change I am able to see because of what I do. Volunteers are serious. If engaged well,
they can make a real difference. Thank you.
Panelists, please stay back. Thank you for your valuable inputs. I now request Diksha Punya, Director People Management ISDM, to felicitate all our panelists as a token of our gratitude and appreciation. We would like to share a little bit about the certificates today and how these resonate with our values. The certificate presented to our speakers marks a small planet-forward step by growtrees.com, which wants to allow users to satisfy a private purpose of greeting someone through an e-tree certificate while doing social good by planting trees. Thank you, Diksha. Requesting all speakers to please grace us for a photograph.